Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty, here at you again with another week, another edition of this week's vlog. If you haven't been around me for a while, or if you're just getting to know me, uh, my name is Dustin. I'm a middle-aged autistic man. I was diagnosed at the age of 13 in 1998 under the Asperger's diagnosis, and I've been living most of my life in some way or another. Understanding and knowing that I was autistic. I've been living on my own for over 7 years now, and I've had a part-time job for almost 16. So every week I share a little glimpse of what life is for me as an autistic person. And this week we are continuing the series that we have been starting with our new me in 2026. And we're becoming to in this week's video, we're becoming more understanding of what is me as an autistic person, and understanding that I can have the things I need to have and do the things that I want to do. And it's been a long road to find this perfect balance of where I want to be as I navigate this independent living on being on the autism spectrum journey. It hasn't been easy. If you read through my blogs, um, if you follow the playlist on YouTube under my YouTube channel called The Perfect Storm, you'll see how that spiraled and crashed and picked up, and it was a long way to get at least somewhat stabilized mentally and understand what things are and why they were important. But as we move forward and we start the new year on a clean slate, a good slate, being better mentally grounded after a long time of not being mentally grounded and not understanding that it took me to do what I needed to do to understand, accept things, let go of the past, move on, those sort of things. It's been a long journey in that regard, and we're moving forward with life, understanding that, picking up the pieces from where we left off, understanding that now I can have the things that I want in life, the things that I discovered over the past 7 years, that I can have those things without having to sacrifice my mental health care, my mental health regimen as a need for those things. I think living independently as an autistic person opens up the door to things. It opens up the door to being vulnerable, learning things on your own, learning things through others, just learning how to navigate it in a way that, you have to learn things for yourself. Sometimes you have people that help you. Sometimes you have people that you can't see are helping you, but are really worried and care about you. And I think now that I look back, the more I realize that there's people that still love and still care for me, and those that still valued me and have always valued me, always worried about me when I wasn't in my best moments. And I couldn't see that for the longest time until, about 2 years ago, I had to have that real candid conversation with that person that I valued just as much as they valued me, and see that I had to put myself back together and start working the path to making the right decisions for me, and that doing things just because I felt that they were what I wanted to do or thought that they were what was working for me was certainly not. It was also those things in conjunction with understanding that, hey, I'm autistic, and because I'm living on my own and there's new things to understand, new things to do, new things to work through, that the things like being burnt out are going to be more common. And maybe things are going to have to be a little different for me. And it's like taking me to accept those things for what they are, learning how to manage my life through them, learning that some things, yes, they suck, they're horrible, they cause things to happen, but we have to be stronger. We have to fight through them. We have to do what's right. It's what comes with being who I am. It's the part of me that I don't like. It's the part of me that, yes, I battled for a long time and had a hard time grasping reality of, but it's also seeing that without things to help me, it's hurting me more than it's helping me. It's causing concern, it's causing fear, it's putting, a highlight out there for my safety. So, being more grounded now and understanding why we do the things we do and why they're just as important as anything else and why they have to be what they have to be, regardless of what my personal belief was or what I struggled to understand in me and know that they are just as valuable as the tools for mental health that we think are commonplace. We think that we don't want to, we shouldn't have shame in, are things that we need, and they're just as important as the things we do with our mind, as important as the things we do, that we find joy in, and that things like sleep are essential things that are a must. And, more and more in 2026, I'm realizing that, yes, there's going to be times that I'm going to be burnt out from doing things. And there's going to be times that I need to take time to practice autistic self-care. And if you want to know what that is, I encourage you to look that up. But it's more of self-care in an autistic way. And it's knowing that on top of what people perceive self-care as being fancy and classy and doing things look good, it's other things too. And that's sometimes what can make or break us, in this world of being autistic and navigating life in a world that often isn't made for us. And I think, through the journey of self-discovery, through the journey of being expanding my mind, through the journey of seeing so much of the things that I really wanted but never really got to got to discover, got to know, got to experience, the things I held back from believing in myself and knowing of myself in nearly 3 decades. I got to see that. But the way that I was experiencing it was very unhealthy because I didn't have a control of it. Yes, it brought me joy. Yes, it brought me happiness, but it was becoming to a point where my mental health condition was doing the dirty work and making and being its worst self and doing things that were maybe doing or saying things that may be taboo or inappropriate or not the right thing to say at the right time. And it took for everything to crash down 2 years ago, and nearly 2 years ago, and working my way up at working on you know, establishing those goals and working on those goals for being more mentally well, for doing what's right, for learning techniques with how to cope with things, how to cope with challenges, how to have the best of both worlds, how to balance your pleasure and your fun and your caring for yourself and life's demands and the demands outside of your home and accepting things for what they are, practicing a skill that I'm starting to pick up more and more on called radical acceptance, accepting things for what they are, because, as much as I want to believe deep down that I have the power to change things, I really don't. And, they're not really harming me as bad as my mind sometimes wanted to think they were. And because of things of the past, hate, hurt, those sort of things, the way I took those emotions and passed them on was not the most the healthiest way of doing it. And it took working through those emotions, accepting those emotions, processing them in a better way, and learning how to be satisfied with the way and understanding that not being totally happy, but understanding that life just is the way it is. It sucks sometimes. It isn't fair, and it puts a damper on things. And I wouldn't even say it puts a damper on things. It just makes things a little irritating at times. It makes things a little harder to deal with. It's the reality of the world, and the reality of the world sometimes makes it hard because when you're autistic, it amplifies that feeling, it amplifies that things maybe from the past or the trauma that we had or the feelings that we had, and we can't seem to shake what we're feeling. We can't seem to let go of things, but we have to learn to better manage those feelings, not get into the old behaviors, not get into the old ways of thinking, not get into, dwelling on things that that once were, and we can't change. We can't go back and fix the past, but it's also knowing we can't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And we can't rehash, and we can't relive those moments that, we thought we felt jaded, we felt wronged, and we think that we have to have our way because it would hurt us back then, or that we have to gaslight people or mentally abuse people because we want some sort of personal redemption from it. And for too long, my mind felt that way, and it felt hard, and it felt hurt, and it felt cruel because I had felt that, life was just horrible for me, and it was just terrible, and everything I did was terrible. And even, trying to find the silver lining in the small things in life, trying to find the little things that brought me so much joy. And I tell anybody that I see, and anything I see on my Dustin's Dynasty Facebook, and when another autism individual, somebody on the spectrum or somebody that's disabled has a small milestone, I always say to the family, or I always say in the comments, that it's sometimes the little things, and it makes all the difference. And sometimes it is the little things. Sometimes it's maybe the little gift that you weren't expecting. Maybe, today's National Pay a Compliment Day. So maybe, we're paying that extra compliment. Maybe we're having that extra kind word. Maybe we're being kinder to someone else. Maybe we're understanding someone else for who they are, and seeing maybe, hey, we're making a difference just by us being us, and showing them that we have what it takes in us and ourselves and myself to do what I need to do to exist in this world, and I handle it pretty darn well. And it's being, I wouldn't want to say, it's being inspired, being felt safe, being felt comfortable by those who look up to me and feel confident being around me, knowing that I can handle this. I know how to manage life as we navigate. I know how to self-advocate. I know how to speak up and say what's need to be said, when it needs to be said, how it needs to be said. And people who look up to me and see the world about me. And, years ago, I had not said the right thing sometimes at the right time. I had let my tempers and what I had kept in my mind because of things that happened and things that were said, and believing these things. And even though I didn't have the validity and thinking they were true, but and a part of me not taking care of my mental health. And when the pot brewed and the pot steeped over the top, and I said things to somebody that, I shouldn't have said because I didn't have a valid point to them. And yes, they may have been what I was feeling, but was I really feeling what I was feeling? Or was that what I was led to believe that I was feeling? And it hurt. It just brought a false light, but deep down I knew it wasn't my fault. And, and in the whole grand scheme of that, was I was being somebody that I didn't want to be in front of somebody who looked up to me, and I didn't ever want to be that person again. I didn't want to be that person that had that meltdown, that didn't know how to manage the smallest of things, who had trouble managing emotions and circumstances in front of somebody who looked up to me and valued me as a great person, a person who has walked this walk and talked this talk for so long. And, in those moments, you know, I lost it. And, there was a few instances after that where I did, but thankfully those people, those same people, or those people that seen why and how and understood why and how those things happened, they happened and they accepted them for what they were. We closed the door on that chapter. We moved on, and I had to continue to do the work that I needed to do to improve myself, close that chapter on it. But part of that closing that chapter on what was and what we let ourselves to believe about things, not only in that realm, but why we weren't caring for our mental health, why we weren't doing the things that we needed to do, why we held off on doing things was because I believed that I couldn't live my best life. I couldn't do the things that I was discovering about myself, the things that I found joy and pleasure in, and I didn't think I could have the best of both worlds until I really, had a heart to heart with myself, and I really tried and put two and two together and seen that living life is a different life is not a life less lived. If I have to quote Carrie Cariello on that one, I do. But it's my life, but it's my life within limits. And, there are things that I just have to do. They're a part of what being autistic is. They're a part of how my brain is wired. They're a part of how it just has to be. And as much as reluctant as we once were about them, I've learned to accept and understand them for what they are, what they keep me going, what makes me well and sane and hold everything together and still be able to have those joys, pleasures, needs, wants, and things that I just enjoy, and I can still have those and the things I need to be well at the same time. And having all of that I have just explained into a decent, well-managed, well-oiled machine makes what living life as me being an autistic person is and just can be and can flourish and do the things that people count for me to do and expect for me to do and be there for them and show the way of what life is being on the autism spectrum and having the opportunities that I have and the blessings that I have, like living on my own and living this life, having a part-time job. I'm out there showing and doing and being that example every day and seeing those people look up to me and see and have that reassurance and that safety that they sometimes need and showing people how to live life as best as it is and that it's not different, it's not wrong, it's not bad, but for what it is, and I make the best of it and I deal with the things that come with being autistic. I deal with the things that just have to be because they are, and I don't beat myself over it, and I don't play the pity party card, and I don't sulk, and I don't pass the blame to anybody else. And I just don't make people feel bad. And that was another thing too. I would make people feel bad for things that I couldn't control or things that I had to do that I was unhappy in. But I learned over time that I had to make myself happy. I had to learn to choose my own happiness, choose to love myself, choose to be who I wanted to be, and have that perfect balance of what was wanted and needed. And, having that, finding that healthy mix of what was needed for me and what brought me joy and not having to be discouraged at one thing because of the other and seeing whether, it didn't matter whether it was if as long as it did what it was, as long as things happened the way they did and my mental health was fine, that was really all that mattered. And it wasn't about, goals and things that once were or behaviors that once were. Sometimes you have to let go of those behaviors that you were having because they weren't who you truly were either. And I saw that too. And that was something that hurt. But ultimately, it was letting go of everything in the past that was wrong, accepting what I wanted, accepting what I needed, and learning to move on with my life and learning that it's okay to live the life that I live. It may be different, but it is surely not a less lived one. So, with that being said, I want to thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, be sure to like and follow me on this video. Just tap a notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't already. I always appreciate subscribers. They're great. You haven't already followed me on my socials. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, TikTok. Um, if you have followed my website, www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. If you haven't heard anything, it's all under the link tree under Dustin's Dynasty. Again, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to enjoy this episode. Let's have a good weekend, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Live your best life yet. Remember, you are loved, you matter, you are enough. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk at you soon. Bye for now.